Well, the founder, Michael Sacco, he's actually on the ground right now working with communities in Oaxaca and Chiapas. And he works with a really amazing gentleman called Gustavo Esteva, who's an amazing intellectual down there, who's been his mentor for over 10 years now. Before even Chocosol was thought of, he was doing an apprenticeship with him at Universidad La Tierra in Oaxaca. And after working for about 5 years in that region, in Oaxaca and Chiapas, Michael was asked by his mentor, so what do you want to do with your life? And are you going to stay in Mexico and be an activist and technologist with Chiapas and Oaxacans for the rest of your life? What do you want to do with your life? And Michael thought about it quite a bit, and he wanted to come home. He wanted to come to Canada.
Because he was from here.
Because he was he was raised in Ottawa, and he was living in Toronto. And he had a wife here in Canada as well, so who had been supporting him, working with him, or supporting him in Mexico as well. And so Gustavo asked him, what is it that you want to do? And at the end of the day, he wanted to come home, and he wanted to bring some of the knowledge and some of the ideas that he had been cultivating within himself and that he was so inspired by, and introduce them to our communities here in Toronto. And at the time, I don't think anybody really knew about the Mexican culture of cacao and chocolate in Toronto at all. So he packed his suitcase full of his first batches of chocolate that he had made in Oaxaca and cacao beans, and he came to Toronto, and he was making chocolate out of his back porch, and that's where things started to unfurl, and one thing led to another. And after about a year of literally peddling the chocolate across Toronto and meeting with farmers markets coordinators who to see if the idea was worth pursuing and to get them inspired by what he had been so inspired by in Oaxaca and Chiapas. And after about a year of doing that, he brought his first shipping container of cacao products and spices and tapetes and artifacts from the communities that he had been rooted in Oaxaca and Chiapas, and he brought that to Toronto, and around 10 years ago. And that's when we found a small cafe space at 720 Bathurst, which is now the Center for Social Innovation. And that's where I personally met Michael. He had a little tiny nook corner of a cafe that he was just building from scratch, and I was very interested in cacao for personal health reasons. I was very interested in its nutritional value, and what Michael and Chocosol opened my eyes up to are the broader social political implications of our food decisions and the food culture that we help to create and help to nourish, end up impacting not just ourselves, but communities across the world and economies across the world. And I want to be part of something that goes beyond just my personal gratification and really strive to do something beautiful, yet impactful, yet ecological, yet delicious, which is, something that we really want to be doing as well. We don't want to just make a super healthy superfood product that's just healthy and not particularly tasty. We want to make something that has the best of all worlds. We want to make something that is delicious, nutritious, and ecologically minded as well.
Yeah, and how has...
So we started very humbly, very small, with a small hand-welded molino that Michael had built himself, welded the whole thing himself, and now 10 years later, 1, 2, 3, 4 facilities later, we only have one facility, but we've moved from 4 different times across the city to finally land here on St. Clair West, which really does feel like home at this point. We went from not knowing how we were going to pay ourselves and not paying ourselves for the first few years, and just to having an amazing team of passionate, intelligent activists in the community and actionists, and really committed people who are really committed to raising all tides, not just working a job, but really creating something unique and beautiful and powerful here in the city. And we want to be a shining example of what can be achieved when you take the time to root yourself in not just business, but in the relationships that you hold, including the relationships that we have with our own staff, but the intercultural relationships, the bridging that we do with communities of growers in southern Mexico and now Ecuador and the Dominican Republic. Well, for us, fair trade was not really enough. So oftentimes, fair trade requires certain levels of certification. It has improved over the years as far as making it accessible to small plot growers, but oftentimes people who had just very traditional parcels in remote indigenous communities didn't have the scale to be able to buy in to cooperatives. And this is what we were introduced to, and for us, horizontal trade is what we try to be about, and it's a question of not trying to help poor campesinos and poor people who are in a different economy and trying to put yourself inadvertently above them by trying to help them out of a bad situation. It's about doing dignified work together and mutually understanding that we're trying to create something that goes beyond economies. Now, what does that mean as far as the cacao that we purchase? Well, of course, we're going to be paying above the fair trade organic prices to the farmer for the cacao that we work with in Mexico, because of the amount of work that it takes to do it on the small scale. And also the fact of the matter is, cacao is such a world commodity that it's been devalued through industrialization, slave labor, and exploitation over the last 100 years, and the bottom line price of cacao in the world market is too low to represent the true value of what cacao has to offer us as a beautiful food and spice, as a teaching tool to understand forest gardens and agriculture in a whole different light, and also as a commodity, as something that has real value and creates economies for people. Basically, this is a Oaxacan style stone grinder, a molino. So this is kind of one of the tools that makes our chocolate unique to Toronto. So it has two silica-rich volcanic stones that are actually from Oaxaca. And we've actually taken the basic design of the molino and we built the frame around it with stainless steel. Now these two grinders here are more artisanal scale stone grinders as well. So these ones here have a granite stone bottom and two granite stones on the inside. The next step are these two machines here. These are to temper the chocolate. So this is about crystallizing the chocolate. It's an aesthetic step. It's to create a solid crystal on the molecular structure of the crystal that holds the chocolate in a way that has that beautiful dark color and also that snap when you break it. Now this is a room that for me, this smells like our shipping container, which smells like Mexico. So the smell of raw cacao and roasting cacao is something really beautiful, very unique. So this is our preliminary processing room where we do all of the blending of the different varieties of cacao. Now this is an interesting machine that we also built from scratch as well with an inventor called Lawrence Symington, who's doing lots of great work with solar concentrators across Africa and Mesoamerica. He's been working over 10 years in the project of solar concentrators, and it's how Chocosol got its name. The first ton of our chocolate was made in Oaxaca using pure sunlight to roast the cacao. In here, this is our kind of micro fleet of mini trucks and bicycle distribution and setup. So
I don't even have my driver's license, and I'm the head of sales for the company. I do a lot of the deliveries for the company, and I'm able to do that with the research that we've invested into ecological bike tools. And we want to continue developing this building and make it more and more of a science center destination for our customers and for people to take workshops and get an education around not just cacao and chocolate, but also food culture and waste management, water management, and stuff like that. So this is kind of like where all the soil that we generate ends up. These are earth boxes, dormant right now during the winter, but they're composed of coconut coir, cacao char, cacao shell, and vermiculture compost that we created using vermiculture techniques, so which is worm castings, worm composting. Things like our paper towel, food scraps from our lunches, and that gets turned into high caliber fertilizer. This is our maize research kitchen. So this is a research kitchen. It's not really a production kitchen. It's where we do product development for the tortilla project. You've met Kat here, and basically this is where we kind of highlight some of the artifacts that we've accumulated from the growers and the growing community. So part of the horizontal trade concept is not just buying raw materials, it's also taking a look at the broader needs of the communities and the broader offerings of the community. So things like pottery, things like the tapetes that are hand woven by a good friend of ours just outside of Oaxaca City, and things like that to kind of work with arts, not just with the imports has been important to us, but you know, there's only, like our research into ecological techniques and tools, it's not something we can always like invest in at all times, right? But it is something that's very important to us.